Yo, what's up, guys? Fantasy football fans, how you doing? Week 6 is in the books. We got week 7 coming up right now. I'm gonna talk about a couple things today. Number one, I'm gonna talk about how I use my bench, and number two, I'm also gonna talk about the 3 things I do every week. And what I do when I set my lineup and how I do things every week. And we'll go from there. Pretty good week again. I went 6-2. So for most of the leagues, 3-3 right now is for most of my leagues. I got a couple that I'm over 500. I got a couple that I'm under 500. But for the most part, 3-3. Right now at this point in the season, if you're like 3-3 or even 2-4 isn't the best, but if you're close to 500 right now, that's pretty much where you at least want to be aiming for. Obviously, to be undefeated would be great, right? But if you can at least somehow manage to stay right around 500, that's always a good thing. For most leagues, if you're a 10-man league, 12-man league, usually it's six teams to get in or 4 teams to get in, but 500 is usually where what you're gonna need to be in the playoff hunt. Like I said, if it's like four people that make the playoffs, then you want to be like 1 or 2 games over 500. But usually 500 is like right your mark. You know what I mean? If you're right there, you're like not. Don't stress. If you're 1-4, sorry. It's gonna be a big hole to be climbing. But anyways, I'm gonna dig in here and we're gonna talk a little bit about what I was saying. Okay. All right. So every week I do this. Every week I go and I look up the box scores for everything, and I check the scores. Two, I like to check. I like to take out. I actually like to look at the actual box scores. And for running backs, I like to see, who's getting the carries and if they're getting split evenly or if it's kind of like lopsided. So even David Johnson, he's not having the best year, but he's still getting the bulk of the carries compared to everybody else, right? And he's not getting thrown a lot, the ball a lot, but that's okay, right? So I like to look at the box scores for everything, and I like to pay attention to obviously the scores in general to see if their defenses are doing well or not, and then also too I like to go on here and make some waiver claims. Obviously, every week I do this. Every week, in every league I check the box scores. Every week, in every league I check the waivers. So for this week, I actually like Joe Burrow a lot, Derek Carr a lot, and I also like Carson Wentz. He's actually probably gonna have a pretty good week. It's a good matchup. For running back wise, I'll just go over this real quick with you guys. Latavius Murray is not a bad choice. J.K. Dobbins is on a bye, but he's not a bad choice right now, knowing that Mark Ingram's out. So they're only going to split the carries with pretty much 2 players, not 3 now. And if I had to choose somebody else, I would maybe go with someone like LaMichael Pirine. The only reason why I'm going with LaMichael Pirine is just because Lev Bell's out and they can't keep feeding the ball to Frank Gore every week. So they're basically in rebuilding mode now. So they're gonna pretty much be looking to whatever else is happening. Also too, I like Boston Scott, and I like him for the reason only, not long term, but just to fill in for like 1 or 2 weeks. So that's that. Henry Ruggs, I like him right now. AJ Green, he actually had a big game. Didn't get a touchdown, but he had a lot of targets, obviously, like he's been. But he finally got the receptions. He actually hauled the balls in. Cole Beasley's actually having a quietly decent year. He's somebody that's kind of like one of those players, like I told you, that's like has a safe floor. Austin Hooper, I don't mind, and actually Rob Gronkowski is starting to come around. He definitely was way more involved in the wider in the passing game this week. And also Dallas Goedert. I know he's on. It says he's on IR, but I think he's gonna get activated this week for sure. So That's who I would choose. Um, for defense, I like the Saints and I do like the Seahawks, but there's not really any other teams that I like defensively. Actually, I do like my Raiders. Tom Brady's shown that he's been throwing a lot of picks lately, and I feel like if he's playing from behind in any facet, I think their defense is gonna eat. Um, Zane Gonzalez not a bad choice. Chris Boswell's not a bad choice. Randy Bullock's actually been pretty good actually. So those are the things I like to do, and then when I do set my lineup, right, I will set up everything, and I like to go back and forth. If there's somebody that like I'm iffy on as far as setting my lineup, I will go back and I'll check, right? I'll check and say, hey, you know what? I have, for instance, I don't know, I have the Vikings. I have Justin Jefferson. All right. Well, I'm a little wishy washy. I'm a little undecided on the fence about him. You know what? Who's he gonna be playing, or what did he do last week, right? And then I will look back and see what he did personally last week, and then I'll look back and see what the team did last week, that he's gonna be playing. So this week he's gonna be playing Atlanta, right? And I'll look up who played Atlanta last week, and I'll say, okay, how did that person do when they played Atlanta, right? And so then I'll go from there. So that's kind of some of the things that I like to do. Also, the reason why I have this up is because I'm uh, the reason why I got that screen up right there is because I'm actually gonna start talking about how I use my bench. And now, how I use my bench usually, I like to have two backup running backs no matter what. Two decent running backs that if I had to play for some sort of COVID injury, or not injury but COVID situation, or one of my players just fell down in the shower and can't play this week because they messed up their knee or something. I like to have those two first and foremost. Three, I like to have only one backup receiver. Um, when I say backup, I mean a pretty good receiver as well. I'm not too worried ever about filling in the receiver role, because every year, um, the receiver position, there's always one or two players that just, not even one or two, there's always several players out there on any given week that you can usually plug in and play, for a decent return. Okay, tight end wise, this year I'm actually having a tight end, but for most years maybe that'll go to like a backup running, a third running back, or the second receiver, depending on, like, who's better. And this year too, I'm actually carrying two quarterbacks, for that COVID reason. Um, and then most of the time, I will have one player who's like a free agent player, who like I feel like they can be a sleeper that I kind of pick up. Like, so on one of my teams, or on a couple of my teams, I've actually picked up LaMichael Pirine and Brian Hill. Brian Hill because kind of the same reason as Alexander Madison. Todd Gurley, he's having a decent year, but I don't know about his durability anymore. LaMichael Pirine, the reason why I've kind of snagged him up on a couple leagues is just because Frank Gore, you know what you're going to get out of him, right? The Jets are already in rebuilding season. So when I look at Frank Gore, yeah, he's the solid rock, but they're rebuilding. So now when teams start to rebuild, they usually start to figure out, okay, who are the players, who are the studs, and maybe Michael Pirine is, maybe he isn't, but at least for the time being, I feel like his carries are gonna go up because he's young, and they need to figure out, okay, is running back a situation where I need to draft somebody, or am I okay at running back this for next year, and then can I build around him a little and put some other players around, and address the running back situation in 2 years or 3 years? You know what I'm saying? So Lamichael Piran is somebody that's kind of got my eye a little bit, and I put him on a couple teams. Regardless, though, I don't really like to touch anybody from the Jets right now. He's probably the only player that I want, um, just because they're a bad team. Now, so this was last week's matchup. My team's right here on the left. This is a team on the right that I'm playing, okay, or that I did play. Now, if you look right here, they have a bunch of people on buys, and I don't know if this person kind of fell asleep at the wheel, but he kind of got screwed, because even if you look at his bench, he has a lot of people on buys, a couple people injured. So long story short, I got a real easy win from that. I'm gonna kind of take you to another one of my benches right here too. So this is my bench. This is actually my bench last week from this team. Normally I do not carry two defenses. Just because you can always stream a defense. You want to carry one decent defense and then stream the second one for the bye, or if it's a bad matchup. But the only reason why I snagged up the Steelers and the Patriots is because those are two top-notch defenses, and if I can snatch two top-notch defenses up, that's less opportunity for someone else in the league to get it. So like I said, I don't normally do it, but I saw them available and I just jumped on it. That's a little different. But let's go back to this league right here, this team. So this was last week. This is my team last week. It wasn't, I mean, I got the loss, but it's all right. I'm not worried because I'm 3-3 in this league right here. Where is it? There it is, 3-3. So, it's not too bad. Once CMC comes back, I know this team's gonna take off for sure. But like I said, some of the guys right here. So Myles Gaskin was one of my I guess you could say I wasn't too sure on him, and I just picked him up because I figured he had some upside. Laviska Shenault was somebody that I did pick up too later on. I know I mentioned him in a couple of my videos already. So that's kind of how I usually run with my bench. That's how I work it. Also, too, guys, pro tip: if there is somebody that's on COVID, or if it's somebody that likes Christian McCaffrey, he's out for a couple weeks. I think he should be back next week. I don't think he'll be back this week because they're playing on Thursday. But Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, somebody like that, put them on the IR position. Most leagues that I'm in have an IR position. I'm in 8 leagues, and only one of them isn't doing it. The reason why is because you can pick up somebody else and put them in their position and go for it. So that's another little pro tip that I like to do. Because some people don't take advantage of that IR position. Use that IR position. That's what it's there for. So you can have an opportunity, and you don't have to lose that player. Also, too, guys. When I'm setting my lineups and I'm going on the waiver wire, I forgot to mention this. I always like to pay attention to who just got injured. As shitty as it sounds, but for instance, when Dak Prescott went out, Andy Dalton's not a terrible choice. Those are small things that I like to do. Or when it comes to trading, when Dak Prescott went out, I sent a couple trade offers. They got rejected, but sometimes people who have big stars like that, they freak out, and they feel like they need to address that position right away. And that's kind of how you get some decent players for it. So anyways, guys, that's my week 7 fantasy football analysis. Some tips. Good luck. I hope you guys are all doing well. Go Dodgers, and I will see you next week. Take it easy.